Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is yet another vlog. It's been a while since I've done one of these. The last time I did a video like this was in the middle of a little bit of a health scare that I was going through. I'm going to say this, I'm doing a lot better. The days where I don't really have a lot of flare-ups are becoming more frequent, but I still have some flare-ups now and then. In fact, today I had one while I was at work, but I managed to pop an allergy pill and got it under control. So if I seem a little bit loopy or seem a little bit slow in this video, there's a reason for that. I'm drugged up right now. That's the way I'm able to keep these symptoms under control. Because there are some days where it just pops up and just kicks my ass, and I still don't know why. It might be some of the stuff I'm eating, but I'm trying to keep the histamine levels low. I'm trying to do a lot of different things. It is what it is, you know. It's manageable now though, which is a huge improvement over where things were for a certain amount of time. So it's something that I can live with. It's not something I want to live with for the rest of my life, but if it's something that I have to deal with, I can deal with it. Even if it ends up being something like that, that would suck, but I can still deal with it. It's not something that is insurmountable for me to handle. I appreciate everyone's kind words and their well wishes. They really mean a lot to me, especially during this particular time, because I was really just I was all out of sorts. You can't blame me because I was just not thinking that things were going well, and I didn't know what was going on, and it was very harrowing, to be perfectly honest. Even though it wasn't life threatening, I didn't know that. I didn't know that for a decent amount of time. But yeah, I'm doing better. I plan on doing a lot of requests this week. I'm gonna do Death Wish 1 through 3. I will also review the other Death Wish films, but I think I'm gonna save those for a little bit later. I did watch them. I'm just gonna save it for a little bit later because I want to get through not only the Death Wish trilogy, at least the first three. That was the request that I received. I also want to do reviews for a couple other things that were requested. And I want to get around to doing videos that I really am passionate about and videos that I want to do. Like, I want to do a review of The Batman because I saw that recently and it really impressed me. It surprised the hell out of me how much I ultimately enjoyed the film. Despite some flaws, I still thought it was easily the best film of the year to date. And honestly, the best Batman film I've seen in years. So, yeah, I thought it was that good. So I can't wait to gush about that film. And there's a couple other videos I've had on the back burner that I would like to do. A review of Creepshow Season 2, because I did actually watch that, but I didn't get around to recording the video. So, stuff like that. I'm going to share my thoughts on Batman Returns again. I'm going to share my thoughts on the first 13 episodes of Batman the Animated Series. And yeah, so that's kind of what I have planned. I also do want to do the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. I just haven't really gotten through the entire franchise yet. I'm up to part 4 in my rewatch a-thon, so to speak, in my marathon of Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. So I haven't really gotten past that point yet. Once I get past that point, then I'll start recording some reviews and knock them out. I also would like to do the Candyman films because I did watch all of those recently. Within the past couple months, I just haven't been able to sit down and record the reviews yet. But anyway, that's what I have planned for videos. Next up is the portion of the video where I share the most recent films that I picked up on Blu-ray, DVD, and 4K. I have a couple things that are coming in the mail. I have a 4K release of Stripes that I managed to secure from a online seller. it's a release that's a part of a big box set that's like overpriced and crazy expensive from Sony. They didn't, for some reason Sony decided not to sell it separately. I don't know why, but you know, it's Sony. You know how they do things sometimes. And so I have that coming because I would like to do an Ivan Reitman video one of these days, doing a tribute to Ivan because he passed away recently, and Ivan to me was an incredible filmmaker. I've been revisiting a lot of his films recently in honor of his legacy, and I've just been really surprised by how consistent he was, other than a few exceptions like Legal Eagles, which I thought was really dull and easily one of his worst. Other than that, he's a very consistent filmmaker who has a lot of really good or at least average films in his filmography. So, Ivan is definitely someone who will absolutely be missed. I mean, Ivan is a filmmaker that means so much to me. He directed Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, two films that really made me love cinema. They're two movies that are honestly responsible for opening that door for me as a kid and just really making it such an endearing thing. So his mark is just indelible for me. Like it's a mark that will always be there. And Ghostbusters is also a film that would be nowhere near as classic and as good as it is without Ivan's involvement. But I'll save more of my thoughts about Ivan when I do my tribute video to him. But that's the reason why I decided to get Stripes, because I wanted to add it to the collection for Ivan, and also I didn't have it on Blu-ray and only had it on DVD, and the only way to get the theatrical version in remastered quality that isn't like cut to shreds, I think is on this release. I might be wrong though. I know the theatrical version is actually going to be remastered in 4K along with the director's cut. Because the DVD is just weird. I rewatched Stripes recently, and it was a very janky presentation because you could tell that the extended scenes were edited out. So the theatrical version was just the extended version with the extended scenes edited out. It was very jarring for me. So it's kind of hard for me to review the film properly because I keep talking about how the film felt very fractured, but that's really because of the presentation. It's not really because of the film itself and what Ivan Reitman intended. I also have a copy of Marvel's The Eternals coming on Blu-ray, but that's because I forgot to cancel the featured title on the Disney Movie Club. And that's because I had my mind on everything what was going on with me, so I didn't even think about it. Also because I had recently updated my PC, so I got a new PC. I'm running a new system now. I'm running the latest Windows, and I didn't think about checking in with Disney Movie Club. It is what it is. Now I have it for the collection, I guess. But I definitely do not think that I'm going to like that film. But anyway, that's what I have planned coming up. But let's get to the actual DVDs, Blu-rays, and 4Ks. So let's start out with Johnny Mnemonic. This is the out-of-print release from Image. This is actually a pretty good transfer for an older Image release. What sucks is it's out of print and it's crazy expensive, and I basically wound up paying retail for this off eBay. And the only reason why I was able to get it for that cheap is because the case was a little damaged, so I just replaced the case. The disc was in great shape though. And I like this film. It's a fun movie. It's out there, it's trippy, and in a lot of ways it's way ahead of its time. And I mean, who doesn't love that speech from Keanu? I want room service. Well, anyway, that's Johnny Mnemonic. I would love to see that get an updated release from Arrow Video. Like, that seems like the type of film that Arrow Video would deck out for a 4K release with tons of features, or at least a Blu-ray. Or Second Sight. I mean, they did Super Mario Brothers. Here we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I only had this on DVD, so I decided to get the Blu-ray because I want to revisit this film. Because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films are the current marathon that I'm on. I rewatched the first four. The first one I still like, but my opinion changed on that one. It kind of reverted to how I initially felt about the film the first time I saw it. So I'm going to wait to share more of my thoughts when I re-review it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 I thought was a classic. I thought it was great. It's honestly my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. Sorry. Damn drugs. Drug mouth. Not that kind of drugs, but just allergy meds. They help immensely, but they also take a lot out of you sometimes. But I really enjoyed Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I would say it's my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre film, and I think it's an incredibly underrated sequel. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 was like, it wasn't bad, but it also wasn't really that good. And the fourth film was fucking awful. It was so annoying, and the acting in that film is some of the worst I have ever seen in the entire franchise, if not ever. Especially when it comes to most of the cast in the first half of the film. I mean, Matthew McConaughey is fun to watch because of how over the top he is, but even his performance is abysmal. But at least it's entertaining to watch, unlike some of the other actors in that film who should never act again, and I don't think they did, for good fucking reason. And if they did, they should have fucking stopped while they were ahead. Other than Renee Zellweger, who would go on to do a lot better work. But even she was terrible in that film. And that's really where I ended things. So I'm looking forward to revisiting the remake. I mean, it's got to be better than the Next Generation, or better than the new one, which I also saw, which I didn't like either, the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But next up, I have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, the prequel, because I didn't even have that one at all. If I did, it was on DVD, and it's like hidden away somewhere, and I didn't really want to go through a bunch of stuff to get it. And I honestly don't think I do. I don't think I ever got that one. Also, a Feast, the Blu-ray, because I only had it on DVD. I'm fine with having the other sequels on DVD. I don't really need them on Blu-ray. The only one that I really liked was the first film. The second ones, they have their moments, but I don't need those on Blu-ray. Have a Blu-ray of Hanny Calder, an Olive signature release. This is a Western with a female lead that was way ahead of its time, that not surprisingly is not talked about that much. And it's pretty violent. Yeah, it's a pretty violent film in terms of the level of blood and stuff like that for a Western. So that's Hanny Calder. Speaking of violent films, Arrow Video's release of Don't Go in the House. I know Severin did a release. I didn't want it because I don't like the vintage VHS cover art. This is the cover art that I really liked. I do think this is a gorgeous slipcover. This is really, really nice artwork from Arrow. And there's the original poster. And this is definitely an upgrade over the DVD that I had. This says that it's region... Well, it doesn't say that it's region locked, because it's not. Even though it's an Arrow Video release from the Arrow UK, it's region free. So, if you're a fan of this film, and you want to get an Arrow release of this instead of Severin, you can still get this, and it'll still play on your player if you aren't region free. So that's Don't Go in the House. Got another All of Films release here, Fire with Fire, with Virginia Madsen and Craig Sheffer. Also got The Boogans, because I only had this on DVD. Got it from the same seller that I got Honey Calder and Fire with Fire. From the same guy, I also got Quick Change with Bill Murray, Gina Davis, Randy Quaid, Jason Robards. Really like this one. It's a bare bones release, but it's still a definite upgrade over the DVD that I had. Body Heat with William Hurt and Kathleen Turner. This one is actually a gift. This was sent to me by Mike. Mike M. Longtime friend of mine. Really great guy. He sent me this. So stay tuned. Finally have that on Blu-ray. Really enjoy that film. And got some DVDs. These were all from a seller online. I got a really good deal on these. A good chunk of these are out of print and hard to find. And he sold them to me for way less than anywhere else. So we have Partners with Ryan O'Neal and John Hurt. This is one of those films that would never get made today because of the plot. It's about a straight cop partnered with a gay partner. And there's the whole thing where he has to go undercover and act gay in order to stop a killer or something. They need to bring a killer to justice, and he's got to go undercover in the gay community. This would never get made, ever. Not today, especially not the way that it's handled. Like, it's definitely a product of its time. But I've been curious about it for the longest time just to see how much of a train wreck it is. The Crimson Rivers with Jean Reno. Film called Butterfly, which features a score by Ennio Morricone, stars Stacy Keach and Pia Zadora in her acting debut, as well as Orson Welles. So that's Butterfly. Got the pirate movie, because I'm just a fan of films that are just infamously terrible. And this is an infamously terrible film. Like, this is the film that has the song "Pumpin' and Blowin'." Like, that's an actual song from this film. It's called "Pumpin' and Blowin'." Pirate movie, another '80s film called "No Small Affair" with Demi Moore and John Cryer. This is some really awful cover art, because I don't know why they can just use the poster. Because that doesn't even look like John Cryer. I mean, that Photoshop is so bad and so smeary and so fake looking. It makes you want to cry. So No Small Affair. Got the triple feature of Sunset Grill with Peter Weller, Scorpion Spring, and Eye of the Storm. All three of these are pretty hard to find. And I think all three of them were only released in that set. Maybe Sunset Grill was released separately. I also got the 8-pack of From Dusk Till Dawn, Repo Jake, Heist, Last Man Standing, Men with Guns, Maximum Force, Road Racers, and The Big Man. I mainly got this for Last Man Standing with Jeff Wincott, because I actually like that one. I think it's a pretty underrated action film. And The Big Man with Liam Neeson is interesting. And Road Racers I thought might be worth a watch. And then I got this for the Charles Bronson collection. Telephone and St. Ives. It's a double feature. And then got some 4Ks. Got the Scream Factory release of Alligator, the collector's edition. Really, really happy with this release. I thought it was just really cool to see that Scream Factory got the rights to Alligator and released this in 4K too. It sucks that, there's no interview with Robert Forster, but I think they did They did port over the commentary though from the DVD. It's Alligator. Got the Kino Lorber release of Hard Target. This is the best the film has ever looked. The sound is really good too. Yeah, it's a bummer it doesn't have the work print, and yeah, it's a bummer Van Damme isn't interviewed. What's crazy is Van Damme was interviewed for, the MVD releases of Double Impact and so on, but Kino Lorber couldn't afford to get him for Hard Target. Despite that, I am really hoping that Kino Lorber gets a hold of Time Cop and releases that, because it's begging for a new Blu-ray and a 4K release. Like Time Cop in 4K, that would be terrific. But yeah, this is a Hard Target. Didn't even have it on Blu-ray, so it was pretty awesome to get my hands on this. Speaking of Van Damme, that's another marathon I want to do in the future, because I've watched a fair amount of Van Damme films recently. And then here is one more collection. This is the 4K box set of the Mission Impossible films. Only had these on Blu-ray. Wanted to get them in 4K because, honestly, this is one of the best action franchises right now. Yeah, Ghost Protocol I think is a little overrated, and I'm not really as big on that as others are. And the first film I like, but I don't love. The second movie also has its issues, but I do think Mission Impossible 3 is pretty good, and I think it's honestly pretty underrated. Rogue Nation and Fallout I loved, so yeah. For the most part, I wouldn't say there's a bad film in this series. Like, there are films that I don't like as much as others, but I wouldn't say that there's a bad Mission Impossible film yet. But that's the Mission Impossible collection, and that's really it for the portion of the video where I show you the recent titles that I picked up. Also, speaking of things that you might have picked up throughout this video, other than the amount of stuff that I picked up recently, I don't know if you noticed it, but you might be seeing a little uptick in lighting quality. That's because I invested in another light. It's called the Logitech Litra Glow, and I would definitely recommend it if you're trying to get a little bit more light for your video setup or your streaming setup, because as you can see, definitely does make a little bit of a difference. I do have another light that I'm also using that I've used before and that I've been using this entire time, but because of the Litra Glow, I'm no longer needing to have another lamp on at the same time to get this kind of lighting set up. So now I want to talk about some trailers. Haven't done that in a long time. Really liked the trailer for the film X. It's a horror film coming out I think it comes out later this month, I think. I could be wrong, but I know it comes out pretty soon. It's a horror film that is a throwback. It's very much a 70s style horror movie. It takes place during the 70s. You have a group of people who are trying to film a porno, and things go horribly awry. It just looks like a potentially solid throwback horror film. I like the visual style. I like the aesthetic. And it just looks like a promising film. The director's kind of a wild card, but it's still one of those films that, to me, shows more promise than Scream 5 or some of these other lazy horror sequels or reboots. At least it's its own thing. That's a similar sentiment that I would like to share for Hatching. It's its own thing. At least it's trying to be something original, something somewhat different. But man, that film, it looks like it's not gonna make a lick of sense. But at least it has some good practical creature effects. The Cursed, that film just came out. I don't think it did very well in the box office. I didn't expect that it was going to. I guess initially the film was called Eight for Silver, I think, was the initial title, but then the studio decided to change it to The Cursed, which is just stupid. And I think I might have already talked about The Cursed at one point, but I just thought it was a really, really dumb move to change the title from Eight for Silver. I think that's what it was, or something involving eight and silver, to The Cursed, because that just makes it sound incredibly generic and lame. And I don't know, it just looked like one of those films that is trying too hard to be atmospheric and moody to the point where it becomes pretty transparent, but like not in a good way. And it also seems like a film that's touted as being really scary, but really it's just more like a really boring horror film. But that's just my initial first impression of it. There is a film, I'm trying to remember what the hell it's called. It's a very long title, but it's a movie that features sorry, I gotta find it here. Yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's got Michelle Yeoh in it. It's got Jonathan K. Kwan from The Goonies and Temple of Doom. That looks like a really creative, really intriguing film. It's another film that might be confusing, but it's a film that I really do still want to see because of the fact that it's got a lot of really crazy, wild visuals, and also just for those two performers. Speaking of a film I'd like to see for a performer, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I always thought that was a great idea. When I first heard about this, the film where Nick Cage plays himself and gets involved in a real-life action scenario, I thought that was a brilliant and really cool concept. And the trailer looks like it legitimately could be a sleeper hit for this year. It legitimately could be a really fun meta ride. Trying to look at anything else. I mean, Doctor Strange 2, I really liked the first Doctor Strange. In fact, I loved the first Doctor Strange. It's one of my favorite MCU films. But the second one, I'm just not as interested in. I guess maybe it's because of what I've heard when it comes to his character, what they did to him in No Way Home, which, yes, I know I still need to see. You're talking to the guy who still hasn't seen any of the Infinity War films. I'm waiting. I want to do a whole MCU marathon one of these days. Like, do them all. But the sequel, I don't know. I mean, Sam Raimi, okay, cool, but it's not like he's been that great lately. It's not like he has the best track record. He's not knocking things out of the park as of late. And I just felt that Scott Derrickson was pushed out of his own franchise because he wanted to do something more daring. He wanted to do something darker. He probably wanted to do a more traditional, straightforward kind of horror film. And Disney was like, no, we need more nostalgia. We're doing this whole multiverse nostalgia bait thing, and that's what we want for this. And then Scott Derrickson was like, that's not what I signed up for. That's not what we agreed to. And then Disney was like, well, if you're not going to do it, then, we'll find someone else. And it was like, fine, I'm not going to do it. And that sucks. It sucks that they weren't able to stick to the initial plan and just threw it out the window to do another No Way Home, but this time around it's with Doctor Strange. I'm just not a fan of this trend of multiverse nostalgia bait Marvel movies. Oh my God, remember this? Or, oh hey, look at this alternate version, alternate timeline. Oh, look at what Iron Man could have been if it would star Tom Cruise. This is fan fiction shit right here. This is the kind of stuff that would be in fan fiction, and in the past people would laugh at it, but now it's like lauded. It's like getting all this critical acclaim, and people are just jizzing their pants over it, and it's just something that I don't get, and that's fine. If you look forward to it, if you think it looks great and it looks amazing and you really like this, that's fine. I have no problem with that. It's just not something that really works on the same level for me. I wasn't impressed with any of the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness trailers. I mean, I was definitely more interested in seeing that than something like Men, the latest A24 horror masterpiece. It seems like it's just going to be another one of those tired fucking cliched men are bad movies, which I'm getting really tired of. And I'm surprised, and I'm probably not alone on that, and I bet that there are women who are getting probably sick of this too. Like, really? We got to keep doing this? Can we do something else? Instead of this all men are bad and all men are evil and men are the real horror. And on that note, might as well talk about Nope. If we're talking about politics, talking about social commentary, I just don't know about that film. Looks like there might be some nice visuals, but that was the case with Us. Really, when it comes to Nope, it really depends on the strength of the story and the characters. If it's yet another race bait kind of film, I don't really think that's going to work, especially not the third time around, because I just think that it's one of those things where it's run its course. It really has run its course. I don't know what else Jordan Peele or any other filmmaker can do with this in terms of white people are racist and white people are evil and white people are the real horror. I don't know how many more fucking times you're going to be able to do this without it getting stale. And it's already starting to get stale even for African Americans, even for African American audiences. You look at the comment section for films like Nope or films like Master, you will see a lot of African Americans, black people, who are like, I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of this race trauma bullshit. Can we just have a regular film featuring a black cast that isn't trying to talk about racism? Can we just have a fun horror movie with an all-black cast that's just a fun horror film and isn't trying to preach to you? So it's not just something that I have a belief in terms of what I would like to see when it comes to films with an all-black cast. And I'm just saying that I'm not saying that having conversations about race is a bad thing, but when it becomes repetitive and when it becomes preachy, then yeah, it kind of is a bad thing. Because then it starts to fall in people's ears. In terms of it falls on deaf ears and people are just like, I don't really want to hear this anymore. And that's not really what you want when it comes to this conversation. Now, is it? So in lighter notes, that don't involve race, there are some more trailers I want to briefly talk about. You've got Firestarter, which I actually thinks it looks like it might be all right. The CGI looks a bit dodgy, but I like the idea of it, and I don't mind that they're redoing Firestarter because the original film version from the 80s wasn't that great anyway. Like, that's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel that I honestly do feel could be improved upon. So I'm okay with them doing that again. But it does look like a film that really is definitely made on the cheap, and that could definitely hurt it in terms of how much it can really impact you. And I think that can definitely be an issue. Also, how they handle the superhero stuff, because it definitely does seem like it's heavily inspired by an X-Men film, which makes sense. Or a Stranger Things kind of vibe. Which, as a fan of Stranger Things, I am even getting sick and tired of the Stranger Things clones. It's a really old hat. Can we retire that? Can we just throw that hat away and start wearing a new hat? Instead of Stranger Things, but this. Stranger Things, but Firestarter. Jurassic World, the latest film, Dominion, trailer came out for that. I'm leery about it because this franchise has been very hit and miss for me. I surprisingly liked Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom as a fun creature feature, but it definitely had its moments of sheer stupidity. But I thought it was an improvement over Jurassic World. This, I like the fact that they're bringing back Alan Grant, Nellie Sadler, and Ian Malcolm, but I don't know about what they're going to do with these characters. If they're just going to do this really frustrating shit where they deconstruct them or they kill them off, then fuck that shit. Uh, that is a load of shit that I don't want to see, and I'm sick and tired of fucking seeing. So I hope they don't do that. But if they do it as like a send off, like a respectful send off to the entire franchise, because the trailers are setting it up like it's the last film in the Jurassic Park series. The saga is ending. And if they really do end it, and they end it on a high note with the old and the new characters coming together, I think that could be something that could be genuinely special. But it just depends on the approach. It just depends on how they do it. And I don't have a lot of faith, given a lot of the recent films that I've seen when it comes to trying to do that. So we shall see. I will give it a shot. I will give it a fair shot because I did enjoy Fallen Kingdom, and I like the idea of this one taking place in a world where dinosaurs are running free. But it's a film that there's a lot going on, and as a result, there's a lot of room for it to fail. But there's also room for it to succeed. We'll just see where it ultimately lies. The Adam Project, the new Ryan Reynolds film for Netflix, I really liked the trailer. It looked like a fun film. It actually looked like a throwback movie. It looked like a film that I might see in the 90s. And I like that about it. And I'm a big fan of Ryan Reynolds. So that looks like it could be a fun film. Fresh is a movie that I'm curious about because of Sebastian Stan and his performance, and the trailer's very weird and off kilter, and I like that kind of stuff. So it looks like a film that could be genuinely unpredictable, and that's something that I really am looking for out of a lot of films lately, especially a film in like the horror suspense thriller genre. The new Chip and Dale, I like the trailer. I don't mind the voice cast. I think for what they're trying to do, I think it'll be all right. I really like the fact that they're trying to do a modern Roger Rabbit kind of thing with this. I think there's a lot of potential there for a lot of genuinely funny satire and meta humor. And I just think visually it has a lot of promise because you have like traditional animation and CGI, and it just looks like it could be a fun, wild ride of animation. It could also be a train wreck, but either way, I'm gonna see it. Another film that could be a train wreck, Elvis, Baz Luhrmann's latest film. This is a director who is a master when it comes to visuals, but not so much when it comes to storytelling. So I don't know about that film, but it does look great. I mean, when it comes to the cinematography and the direction, and it'll definitely use a lot of really great classic Elvis songs. And Rocket Man was one of my favorite films from the year that it was released, the Elton John biopic. So there's potential that this could be a good film, but there's also potential that it could be not so great because of Baz Luhrmann, but also because the lead is he's kind of really green, and by green I mean it seems like he's really not that experienced when it comes to an actor, so I don't know how that's gonna work, but I'll give it a fair shot because I do enjoy these kind of biopics, and there really hasn't been a big budget Elvis biopic like you think there would have been by now, but there actually has not been. I mean, there's the John Carpenter TV movie with Kurt Russell, but that's a TV film. That had a decent amount of money for the time, but that's not a big budget cinematic blockbuster. So this is the first time we're having an Elvis biopic that is a Hollywood film, that has the glitz and the glamour of a Hollywood movie. Then there's a film called Bullet Train with Brad Pitt. I don't know about this movie. And here's why I am on the fence about it. The style and the tone. The style is kind of there for me, but it almost seems like it's trying to be a live action anime, and I don't know about that. And the tone is wildly uneven in the trailer, and the humor really doesn't work for me. I didn't think anything in the trailer was funny, and any attempt it was trying to be funny just came across as cringe and awkward, so I don't know about that. Plus, the action in the trailer really wasn't that exciting and really wasn't that great, so I'll give it a shot for the concept and because I do like Brad Pitt, and it does seem like it's something different for him, but at the same time, it just seems like a film that just seems off. And that might just be the way the trailer is edited. Couple more films I want to talk about. You have You Won't Be Alone. Looks like another overhyped, overrated masterpiece in the vein of The Witch. And it looked like it would be a dull, boring snooze fest. Looked like another pretentious as fuck film that's bloviating about pretentious topics and has its head up its ass and trying to act like it's brilliant and innovative, and I'm just not interested in it at all. And I will probably be alone if I ever do see that film, and I'm not a fan of it, and I ran on it, because there's going to be a bunch of people who are like, you didn't get it, you just didn't understand the subtext and the symbolism and blah blah blah. And to me, there's so much more to films than subtext and symbolism. If they're there, cool. But really, characters, the strength of the story, that means so much more to me than symbolism and subtext. If you don't have those elements in play and you don't have them strengthened to the point where they are a legitimate strength for the film, then I don't give a fuck about how many bits of subtext you have, and I don't care how much moody atmosphere you have either. Like, you need to have characters that I can connect with. Characters. You need to have characters that are strong and likable, or there's something about them that draw you in, that make you actually care about what happens to them. You need to have a story and a script that's more than just subtext. You need to have a plot that actually does intrigue you and keeps you captivated. This trailer, from what I've seen, doesn't seem like it's going to be that kind of film. And seeing quotes saying that it's unlike anything you've ever seen before, and it looks like every folk horror film that was made by some visionary auteur filmmaker, that really is a giant red flag to me. Unlike anything I've ever seen before. The trailer alone makes it look like it's The Witch Part 2. I've seen tons of direct-to-video, direct-to-streaming, independent horror films from overseas, or the UK, or the US, that look like that have that kind of plot and have that kind of focus. I'm sorry, I doubt it's going to be unlike anything I've ever seen before. That's bullshit. I'm tired of seeing that from critics when it comes to the latest horror film that is from another country or is released by A24. It's bullshit every single time, because there's no way that it can be unlike anything I've ever seen before, because films have been around for decades, multiple decades. There is no such thing as an original 100% idea when it comes to a film, no matter what it is. So there's no way in hell it's going to be unlike anything I've ever seen before. Stop hyping up films like that. The only other two films I want to talk about are The Bubble, which looks like it could be a fun film, but it also could be a disaster. It just depends on how it's handled. But I like the idea of it. It honestly looks like it could be a modern day Tropic Thunder, that kind of film, and I really enjoyed Tropic Thunder, so I think there's a lot of potential there. And the other one I want to talk about is Deep Water, Ben Affleck's latest thriller. And the reason why I want to mention that is because it's directed by Adrian Lyne, who did Fatal Attraction and Jacob's Ladder, and this is his latest film. And it doesn't look like it would be a film that's going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to the thriller genre, but it does look like it's well directed. And I'm curious to see Ben Affleck working with a guy like Adrian Lyne. And speaking of Adrian Lyne, I'm going to leave this video on this note. Jacob's Ladder is an incredibly underrated film, and I highly recommend you go check it out if you haven't already. And it's a film that, to me, is Lynn's best, and it deserves way better on home video. It deserves a new transfer, a new 4K or 2K remaster. It deserves a decked out special edition from Arrow Video Scream Factory. I am still stunned that it hasn't gotten one. It's a horror film. It's from a studio that is pretty willing to let other studios work with their products. Maybe it's coming in the near future. I hope that's the case, because it definitely will bring more eyes on the film. But if it doesn't, that would be a damn shame, because it would suck for this film to just remain on Blu-ray with an okay transfer that's dated nowadays. No real genuine new features. A lot of just legacy featurettes and stuff. And when it comes to some of the copies, some of the cheapest, worst cover art you can think of. And the film deserves so much better than that. I mean, Jacob's Ladder, the remake, probably had more new features on the release than the original film. But that's a whole other topic entirely. But anyway, I know I've talked your ear off for almost 50 minutes. And I will end this video here. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and stay tuned for the latest stuff that I have coming up next. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you later. See ya.